Welcome to this media presentation. My name is Dan Josephowski and I'm here to discuss the role media play in the business politics of sport in relation to the National Rugby League. The reason why this topic has been so subjective to this presentation is that over the years the NRL has seen a spate of coverage for the wrong reasons. Many of these reasons are in relation to player behaviours which is tarnishing the image of the game, the clubs and players themselves. It's hard to say that the amount of pulling power rugby league has in the media. The fact is rugby league sells newspapers and rates exceedingly well on TV and radio, so any rugby league news, especially a scandal, would guarantee headlines and media revenue. This has seen the rise of a new breed of sports journalists more akin to being gossip columnists than a journalist of sport. These young sports journalists have changed perceptions on the game, which has given debate that politics in media affects the business of sport. This presentation will help gain an insight into the actual life of a media personnel within the National Rugby League. Further discussion will highlight the politics of media in the National Rugby League and how media may affect business activity within the clubs. I'd like to welcome Canberra Raiders Media Manager Ben Pollock to further discuss this issue. Ben, can you just give us an overview of your role at the Canberra Raiders?
The role of media manager here at the club is a couple of things. The first one is servicing the media in regards to player and coaching interviews. It's very important for us as an organisation to make sure that we're in the public spotlight as much as we can, mostly for the good sort of things, particularly the way the players are going on the field and also the good work they do off it. So that's the number one focus. Also look after things like our club website, the new social media strategies which we have in place, and pretty much anything else that's media related here at the club.
It's evident across the country's newspapers, news bulletins that rugby league is a headline. Do you think politics in media plays a huge role in who can sell the biggest story?
Oh, definitely. It's a huge competition between not only print outlets but also TV, radio on who can get the biggest story. And you see the competition not only within the organisations but also internally as well. The Daily Telegraph, for instance, a lot of their reporters are in such high competition not only with other papers but with each other that they'll go out of their way to try and find a bigger story, and it does impact on the way that the game is covered because unfortunately controversy sells more than what good news does. So the more stories they can get out there of something controversial, then they'll get them out there as much as they can.
Being the media manager of the Canberra Raiders, is it your role to protect the image of the club itself?
I don't think it's about protecting the image. I think it's more about getting a positive image of the club out there. You don't want to be on the back foot all the time and trying to put out fires. I think it's important for us to show how good of a club we are and showcase the things like the initiatives that we have in the community. We've got some really good community-based things that we do that go unnoticed a little bit, and it'll be a focus of ours in the future is promoting those types of things, and also giving the players a voice and humanising them a little bit. People like to know what the players do off the field, not just on it, and it's important for us to get those guys out there and show them that they are people and they're good people, because sometimes it goes unnoticed, which is a real disappointment.
So compared to last year, the Raiders have had a pretty bad season this year. The media points the fingers at people straight away. Why do you think this is the case?
I think it's the nature of the beast. When things aren't going right on the field, questions need to be answered, and sometimes not only is the finger pointed at the players, but it's pointed at the coaching staff, the management of the club, and it's pretty unavoidable. I suppose the best thing you can do from a media perspective is just get out there the positives that the players are doing. Let them know that the guys are putting in a training, they're trying new things at a coaching level as well, and we're looking to bring new players and new things into the club at the top level as well. It's all about giving out as much information as you can, but at the same time you need to keep some things internal, because it's not always the case that public needs to know everything.
As you mentioned earlier, the community work that the club does goes unnoticed. Why do you think media don't take much attention to this and they would rather scrutinise the game?
I don't know if they'd rather scrutinise the game. It's just sometimes, like I said, those bigger type of off-field issues do sell a lot of papers, and sometimes the good work stuff is not as interesting as to those big news outlets as what the bad stuff is. I think as a game, it's important for the players and the clubs to just keep pushing the barrow of the excellent work they do in the community. We have seen things like the Ken Stephen Medal being brought in, which is an award which is given to a player who does outstanding community work. They've actually got an awards night now called the One Community Awards, which is a whole night dedicated to the work that the players do. And at the Raiders level, we'll be looking at introducing a new award to our presentation night next year to recognise the best community involvement by a player within the club. So as long as we can keep pushing these type of initiatives, I think that the good work that we do will start to get picked up a little bit more.
So the many players have been scrutinised in the papers and opted to go to England. Why do you think this is the case, to protect their own image, or do you think they're forced out of the league itself?
Depends on the circumstance. I know that there's been a couple of players who played in this club that were forced out due to some off-field issues. One was Todd Carney, who was sacked by the club for a number of off-field indiscretions. He actually wasn't allowed to go to England because he had some legal issues hanging over his head, so he was forced to play a year in a competition in Queensland before coming back to the NRL, and unfortunately for Todd, we're still seeing him suffer some off-field troubles. The other one was Joel Monahan, who was involved in a pretty disturbing incident, I'd say, you'd say. He was forced overseas, and I think the reason he went was to escape that spotlight. But, you know, players going to England is something that's starting to lessen a little bit. I think there's a number of factors, not only just the way that the game's going, but also monetary-wise, it's not the golden egg that it used to be going over there and playing. So I think with things like the new TV rights deal, some more money coming into the game, we're going to see a lot more players staying here in the NRL, which is a good thing because a lot of these guys can go over there too young.
As you mentioned, players do go overseas. Do you think Rugby League, say in the Super League in England, attracts the same media attention that it does here, or do you think, say, the EPL takes away the spotlight from Rugby League in England?
Oh, there's no doubt that the Premier League football competition is their number one ticket item when it comes to sports news in the UK. For anyone who's ever been over there and witnessed it, I've been lucky enough to head over there and have a look at how it all works, and just the amount of coverage that happens in England around that competition compared to Rugby League, it's really a minnow over there in England. I mean, even here in Australia, you see the AFL dominate in the Victorian market compared to Rugby League, and it's the Storm find it really hard to battle for that media space down there in Victoria. So you don't just see it overseas, but I think that, you know, Rugby League over there, definitely the players, I wouldn't say get away with more, because, you know, you always encourage them to behave, but it's definitely not scrutinised as heavily as what it is here, particularly in the Sydney market.
In conclusion of this media presentation, it is evident to say that politics within media plays a role in relation to the sport of rugby league. As Canberra Raiders media manager Ben Bollock mentioned, there is huge competition within media outlets, whether it is print, TV or radio, and who can sell the biggest story. It is clear to say that news reporters are in such high competition and go out of their way to sell the biggest story, and in the case of the NRL, these stories tend to be ones that are involved in controversy, rather than noticing the good things that happen in the game. The role of media personnel at club level is complete contrast to the role of commercial media. As Ben pointed out, the role of media at club level is to give a club a positive image and how well the club is going. It is about giving players a voice, not on the field, but off the field. Community-based initiatives that players do go unnoticed, and it's important that clubs notice these things to show people that they are good people rather than what the commercial media depicts them to be. As Ben also pointed out, some players in the NRL have been forced out of the league due to scrutiny from the media and a personal monetary move. However, escaping to another league is not what it used to be. The business of rugby league is beginning to evolve, and more money is being injected through TV rights. It is clear to say that depending on a location of a particular sport will deem the media coverage that it will receive. As the sport of rugby league is saturated in the Sydney market, media coverage on international and national scale is nothing compared to sports such as soccer in the UK and AFL in Victoria. I hope this media presentation has given you an inside perspective on the political and business role the media play in the National Rugby League.